So as a lot of people have made clear, right now is not a great time for building a gaming PC. And really, I agree with that, but I thought I would challenge myself to build a computer for around $700 that can be good during the mining craze. Now, you will see the graphics card is a bit low end for a build for $700. But I honestly just wanted to give myself a fun little challenge and see how it works. So, really, part of me wouldn't... This is for you guys that are really like gung-ho about getting into your first PC build right now. I personally wouldn't recommend it, but hey, maybe if you wanted to build it up with all the other components and then wait for graphics cards to go down in price, and then you could put a higher end graphics card in it. I don't know, this is just for fun. So let's get started out with the CPU. And tell me, you guys, if you guys want me to do these more. This idea was inspired by Cult of Mush, if you've heard of them. And no, I'm trying not to be a complete copycat of YouTubers, but just wanted to give it out. For the CPU, I decided to go with the AMD Ryzen 3 1300X. Unfortunately, we would have gone over our $700 budget with an aftermarket cooler, and by the way, that budget does account for tax, but this processor is 3.7 gigahertz quad core, and you can overclock it, so get something like a Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo. I'll have it linked in the description if you're willing to go above the $700 budget. But yeah, this processor is gonna be good for getting into PC gaming, and really, you would have had to pay a lot in a couple years ago for a processor with this performance. So yeah, AMD Ryzen 3 1300X, goodbye. For the motherboard, I have nothing crazy. It's the Gigabyte GA350 and the reason I went with this actually is because you could get a pretty good discount on the board if you included the Ryzen processor. But it's a board that has full DDR4 compatibility, one PCIe slot and 2 PCI slots, and yeah, nothing crazy, but it'll help you get into it. For the video card, this is the one area I had to cheap out on. No other GPUs were available at right now, so I had to go with the Zotac GTX 1050. It's 2 gigabyte, and like I said, I kind of wouldn't recommend buying this right now, but it's like twice the price to go to a 1050 Ti, and I feel so defeated as a PC hardware enthusiast seeing stuff like this. But yeah, if you really want to build this, 1050 is going to get you decent performance at 1080p. Really, it will outperform the consoles in a lot of ways, but I don't know. I don't know if I can genuinely recommend this. For RAM, I had to RAM prices have been a little ridiculous, but right now there's a deal for Kingston HyperX Fury 2400 megahertz DDR4. This is 8 gigabytes, 2x4 gigabytes, and really, I would just recommend buying whatever good speed DDR4 is available at the moment. But yeah, and if you ever want to upgrade to 16, you could buy another kit right now. It's $102, which is a little bit high for 8 gigabytes of RAM in my opinion, but it's what's available right now, and other companies were also pretty high. For storage, I was able to fit an SSD in this build, and it is the Kingston 120 gigabyte AB400 SATA 3 2.5-inch solid state drive. And yeah, 120 gigabytes is a bit limiting. So if you guys, the 240 gig version is only another $27. I honestly would probably recommend going with that route, but that would put us a bit above our $700 budget. But I don't know. I'm not one to spend a lot of money on the SSD. In a lot of cases, I would go hard drive over SSD, but we were able to fit it into the budget. And you can't really have an SSD for a gaming PC and not a hard drive. So really, we're going to go with the WD Blue 1 terabyte SATA 6 gigabit per second, 7200 RPM hard drive. It's around $55, which it's usually $50, but yeah. I still have one of these, and I've been wanting to upgrade to a 2 or 3 terabyte version for a while. I just haven't had the money to do so. So a terabyte can be limiting, but this is something I fell for. Do not buy a 2 or 3 terabyte of this version. The 1 terabyte is the only one that is 7200 RPM. So I would recommend looking into the higher capacity ones from Seagate if you want 2 or 3 terabytes. But this will allow you to store a lot of games. Maybe not a ton. You may have to uninstall and only install the games you have currently, but I still rock one of these, and it works just fine. Yes, basically. For the power supply, I couldn't go with anything crazy. I had to go with an EVGA 450 BT 80 plus Bron certified power supply. It's non-modular, which will unfortunately make cable management a bit of a hassle, but the 450 watts should be able to juice up this build just fine. It should work basically entirely fine, but yeah, I had to go for 450 watts because the budget was getting a little bit tight. So I don't know, if you want to future-proof more, maybe go for 500 watts or something. I don't know. Just I had to go with 450. For the case, I had to go with the Roswell Natutilus. I don't know. It might seem a bit sketchy, but this is only $50, and Roswell is a pretty solid manufacturer when it comes to making cases. So really, when you're doing a case, when you're doing a budget build, the case is like the one thing that you can cheap out on. All you have to do is make sure it is compatible, and yeah, it's fully compatible with all of our parts. So yeah, really, I don't know how much I'd recommend doing this. Maybe, honestly, what I would recommend doing if you're watching this video day of release is buying all the parts besides the GPU and waiting and assembling the computer just as a non-gaming PC, and just waiting for GPUs to go down in price, because I could easily see, like, at a normal price, you should be able to fit a 1060 into this build. And that just makes me feel defeated as a PC hardware enthusiast. Just the fact that I had to put a GTX 1050 in this system. I mean, you see things like 1050s put in $400 systems, and I get it there, but we're $300 above that. And yes, technically this is more of like a $630 PC, but I included tax in the total, so that might save you a bit of a headache. But I'll have to tell you, this does not include the price of an OS, so you're going to have to find that on your own terms. But basically, this will allow you to get into PC gaming. It'll perform much better than the consoles. You should be able to play games on pretty good settings, 1080p, 60 FPS. I don't know if you could dabble into 1440p with this. You probably couldn't, but yeah. I don't know. I probably wouldn't recommend getting this right now unless you did the aforementioned strategy of not getting the GPU. But this was just a fun little challenge. And yes, I did. This idea was inspired from Cult of Mush, but this was just a fun little idea for a challenge. And yeah, hope you enjoyed, and by God, I hope this mining craze gets better.